Great, well done. Really, really good. The nice thing, you know, because I'm not here that often, you know, I'm here maybe 3 times a year. So I get to see you all improve over time. And it's really interesting and it's so nice and you've done so well. You've come so far, it's brilliant, well done. It's really exciting to watch, bravo, fantastic. Great. What I really loved about your interpretation was that there was a really nice sense of line and flow, because there's so much information. You have to get your German translation out, right? For everything. Don't panic. I don't think that's a translation, is it? But all this information, and it's easy to get quite bogged down. But what I really enjoyed is that you really, the form was quite seamless, and there was a lovely flow. Okay. So keep that. I do, however, sometimes think that you could take a little bit more time. Okay. Yeah. You know, if you can keep this feeling of horizontal energy that you have, but also just feel free to breathe a little bit more musically and sometimes pull the phrase a little bit more. And we can find sometimes a bit more tension in the line, this kind of thing, but really fantastic, well done. And it takes such stamina, this piece. So well done, great. Shall we work backwards? I think the cadenza, which was really impressive, and I loved that you went for it. And you know, each time we can do something new, can't we? Especially with the cadenza, we can have that element of freedom and fantasy. It's quite quick, isn't it, towards the end? There's a lot going on, and I think, you know, it sounds cliche, but it's true. It sounds quicker when we play it a bit slower. And maybe with slightly more character and control. So I love the energy, but maybe you could just hold your horses a little bit towards the end. It was a little bit kind of towards the end. You don't want it to sound like a turkey farm. So why don't we just look quickly at some of the cadenza? Tad slower, but with a bit more character and real kind of tonal control as you go through, especially towards the end. Let's try. Great, lovely. I loved these diminuendi. Now, what's great is that you're finding so much flexibility here and you're moving, which is great. I think sometimes for the quieter stuff, you could just push it up a little bit further sometimes. So here, you know, thinking of that movement of the jaw, for the louder stuff being quite relaxed and back, and then for the piano stuff, just think, if you could visualize the airstream, just aim a little bit more for the microphone there, or whatever that thing is, you know, and real support going with it, and just aim a little bit higher. Same feeling as when you play the scale, you know, when you're lifting the air. But yeah, so let's just go from there and try and keep this feeling here. Good. Fantastic, yeah, and then just make sure that we aim to keep the center of the sound going as well, you know? Amazing. Now, we don't have, you know, we can't do double stops, and we don't have the hugest range of all time, but we do have contrast and dynamic contrast, and I think here that maybe the piano sounding beautiful now, the forte could be slightly more dramatic. What do you think? Like emotionally speaking. Not just forte as in dynamic, but forte as in a bit more red-bloodedness. What do you think?
Yeah.
Should we try? Good, amazing. And then these tenutos, if you could keep singing on them, even as we get more dense with the demi-semiquavers, if you can imagine kind of left-hand violin vibrato on those notes, you know? Around here, let's try. Good. Now, you've got to be careful with trill fingerings, because if you're not careful, it can sound a bit like sort of old telephone, you know what I mean? It's kind of like... So we have to, it's not your problem, it's the flute's problem, but we have to slightly adjust the colour, right? Often we need to find something a little bit brighter or darker, depending on how you think about colours, just to get a bit more harmonic content in the sound, to hide your trick fingering. So here, to be honest, I think I would finger that out.
What, both of them?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. And then again, here's something where if it's slightly slower, but with real kind of control, I think it would sound quicker.
Yeah, yeah.
Have a go.
Okay.
Yeah, have a work at it, but that rings better.
Yeah, sounds.
As in not telephone ring, no. But like ring. Good, nice, fab. Let's carry on.
Where's it going?
Good, sounds amazing. I think maybe you could find a warmer attack for these forte pianos, because there's no accent. It could just maybe be a bit more, think like a romantic expression. A bit more of a souffle than kind of, yeah. Let's try. Now, with these kind of arpeggios, it sounds amazing. It's a little bit, some notes are going a little bit, and that's fine, but I think here especially, just hold your horses. And if you could kind of imagine that you're doing the wallpapering or the painting, you know? Like, create a wall of colour going through these arpeggios. Don't rush over them. Go more with your ear and think about the intervals and the harmony, and that will have more meaning than, you know? So just try a little bit slower and really tasting all the notes as you go, you know? Really listening out for the intervals and the harmony so it rings. We want to hear all the, you know. And stuff that goes with it. That was too slow, but you know, just have a go. Let's go from here. Good. And so then in your practice, I would just slow it down and build it up.
completely.
It could be a bit quicker than that, but split the difference between what you did before and then. But really thinking kind of vibrato on every note.
Okay.
So if I, even in fast music, if I could magically kind of pause Brioni, you know, we'd hear a full-blooded note.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, we have this evenness going through. Fab, that's sounding great. Let's go back to this sort of pixie, going for picnic section in the middle. Can we go from bar 60, 59? Oh, that's the silly place to go from. Let's go from nicht so langsam, so 55. Is that okay? It's the big moment. Fantastic. It sounds so brilliant. It's really, really fantastic. I would love to push you even a little bit further with the character and the sound here. It's suddenly, it could be Mendelssohn or something. It's so light and kind of, but with this edge, right? It's got this kind of atmosphere about it, this C minor. So I'd love you to maybe even find something a bit shorter with the staccato. So we have this real contrast between legato and staccato. And try and get a kind of dark but ringing sound, you know? A bit more, you know?
Okay.
You can play it better than me. But, you know, just this kind of, really go for the contrast and the bite.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Shall we just go bang on? 63. We have the two things. We have the kind of vertical and the horizontal. Take away all beats and bar lines and let it just kind of really kind of flow, you know?
Okay.
When we get to these octaves, give a bit more of the bottoms, you know? Elongate the bottoms a bit there. And even though we have so many separated notes, keep the air flowing between the staccato notes, you know? So we have the kind of support behind them. And then bar 70, again, think of kind of doing the painting, all the wallpapering, you know, really imagine that you were trying to vibrate on every note of this. So every note's ringing. Good. Can we try that again? Yes. Okay, let's go. We started a bit late, so it's fine. One more time. Really push yourself to find this kind of slightly evil scherzando, light kind of hybrid weirdness. You know what I mean? Go for it. Go for the weird and the bizarre. Fantastic. And now, don't always be too musical at the ends of phrases and close the door, you know? Keep it open, and then the next section will have more power.
Okay.
So if you're too nice here and you taper off too beautifully, this piano doesn't quite have the same meaning. So keep it full.
Okay.
Ends of phrases, super important. Keep the tonality in your mind.
Yeah.
And then this piano, what you're doing is so beautiful, but in this register, in this kind of space, it's a bit too soft.
Okay.
Add a little bit more volume to your beautiful colour.
Okay.
So.
Sure.
Or maybe kind of a touch more dark chocolate into the sound.
Yeah.
Like a little bit more focus.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Last point before I let you play. 68, enjoy the offbeats.
Okay.
It's something new.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Where do you want to go from? 67?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything you can do in this bar to get the lower notes a bit more pinged out, because they're a bit more interesting, no?
Yeah.
There's more going on. Difficult. Sounds amazing, but go more for the bottom notes.
Okay.
Good. I think we better move on.
Thank you
But
so much.
fantastic. Well done.
Thank
Sounds
you.
really good.
Hello everybody, nice to see you all here. My name is Samantha and I was lucky enough to play to Adam a year ago at Guildhall and now super cool to see you here. I'm going to perform the first movement of Widor's suite. He wrote it for Paul Taffanel and they were both born in the same year in 1844 and then colleagues, professors together in Paris, and that's how this came about. Yeah, so this is the first movement of his suite.
Great, good, fantastic. Nice. What do you think of when you hear the name Widor, apart from this piece, being a flute player?
Organs.
Yes, right?
Composer, teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, not lots of other flute stuff that I know.
I think nothing.
Yeah. He did like 10 symphonies, this and bits and bobs. For lots of organs.
But he's only really known for his organ music, isn't he? Like I can't think of what another piece of Widor sounds like apart from this. Yeah, yeah. But exactly, exactly. But for us, an important composer because this piece, for its time, was quite a big deal. You know, it was really virtuosic for its time. And in terms of scope, you know, having a kind of chunky-ish work, 4 movements, not so many breaks, you know, there's not so many rests, are there? It's kind of full on. And of course we have the Reinecke, and before that we had the Schubert, and, you know, but in terms of late romantic repertoire, this is quite important, you know. Written for Taffanel, who was the virtuoso at the time. And of course, now we hear this music and it's wonderful and it's lovely, but we don't think of it as being, it's not, you know, still we hear like maybe Chantelinos or something and we're like, but this piece, now it doesn't seem so difficult, but at the time it would have been very, very challenging and still is, of course, in ways. So yeah, we're lucky to have this piece. I think, especially in a space like this, we can really use this kind of acoustic to think about articulation, dynamics, structure, and in other words, projection, but not in terms of playing loudly, but in terms of real intent. Or, well, not just the other end, in general, you know, kind of, you know, how a great actor would stand on stage and you would hear all the consonants and everything, but without them shouting, just with being really clear. And I think that's something that we can touch on. And maybe just organise a little bit the dynamics and phrasing as we go. Beautiful though, bravo. Let's go back to the beginning.
Yep.
Now that's a bizarre opening, isn't it?
It's so weird. I don't know what.
The audience wouldn't have expected that, I think.
Like, I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. But that,
like
do you know what though? I think you could like that more.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's striking.
Yeah.
It's not just a kind of C minor chord. It's a film noir before film noir existed moment. You know, so I think go for it.
Sure.
And scooch over here. Maybe if you kick us off a bit more with your a bit more dramatic, and the curtain sweeps open,
Yeah, okay.
and then you respond.
Okay.
But own it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you know, then you can modify this kind of feeling and you could do the same gesture within more of a piano if you wanted.
Okay.
It doesn't actually have a dynamic. It's open to interpretation,
Okay.
you know. But now let's try the same thing, but slightly more under wraps, but with the same feeling. You know, sforzandi in romantic music, often it means kind of this rather than like your heart started beating a bit quicker, you know. Well done. Now, the fermata is over the F, and then we can kind of flow back into a tempo, not too much of a gap.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, moderato, not allegro, I think you could chill a little bit in terms of tempo. I can just sit back a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
And then let's really enjoy this piano. You know, let's pull them in a bit more. a little bit more tranquil, I think.
Sure.
And then we have fire later.
Nice.
Shall we try?
Yeah.
From the beginning again. Fantastic. Now listen, now within a slightly more relaxed tempo, you have a little bit more freedom to ebb and flow.
Okay.
So, you know, if you feel that you'd like to move it on a bit more, bring it back and be a bit more free, don't doubt it, you know, go with it. Because I felt that sometimes you were wanting to, but you didn't quite trust yourself. And I think go with your ear. When we have piano and pianissimo dynamics in this piece, it's always very tempting to do a rit or slow down a bit. And often quieter dynamics demand even more information in the sound and energy. So just keep it flowing. You know, for example, needs even more kind of eyes open kind of feeling, you know? Beautiful, well done. Can we go from halfway through bar 9?
You just
Got it?
from bar zero.
Let's try. Now, as you go down these scales, don't push too hard the sound, you know, keep the embouchure as relaxed as you can as you go down to the bottom. Just allow the air to flow through the tube, you know, don't be too, that's my first point. And then repeated notes, here's another thing, especially in a bigger space like this, we just need to add a bit more of a consonant to repeated notes than we think. So here, for example, you know, put a real word there onto that F. And same here. Otherwise, it can just sound like a long note. So this scale, let's just think really. Don't be tempted to add too much embouchure there, but just to think more kind of warm air as you go down. Let it roll out. Yeah, shall we try? Yeah. Same place. well done. That was sounding fabulous. Well
Do
done.
you have any advice for that? For making... for tonguing two bottom Cs? One after the other?
Da-da-da-dum, ta-dum.
out?
Are you breathing there?
No. Well...
I would breathe there, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, I
Yum,
did.
ti-dum. Yeah, I didn't, to be honest,
As long as it didn't bother you. then.
not in the slightest. I thought it sounded beautiful.
Great, we'll move on.
Yeah. No, and actually, and this scale I thought you played really beautifully because you just let it roll out,
Yeah,
and the sound was resonating.
Cool.
It was great.
Okay.
But if you were wanting to repeat two bottom Cs, I mean, the thing is down here. The further down we go, the more tempted we can be to add pressure to the tongue or to close the throat up. And actually, that's the worst thing we can do at the bottom of the instrument. We need to be really neutral here. And of course, where do you tongue normally? What kind of position do you use?
I try to do forward tongue.
Forward
as
tongue.
much as I can.
Yeah. I mean, in this range, at the very bottom range, forward tonguing isn't as so easy. So I'd be tempted just to move the tongue back a bit.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, in your practice, in your scale practice or whatever, you can think about just, you know, at the very bottom ranges, moving the tongue further back, like in your Taffen and Gobert, for example, you know. And then, you know, finding the place where it feels natural for you to move it forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Now this section from bar 26, 7, 8, 29 to the forte, I think it doesn't, there's no crescendo printed, but we can think of it as this kind of building sequence. In the music, we have a lot of this, and I think hairpins, just for their benefit. And I think that, you know, rather than thinking of them as literal dynamics, think of them as a phrase mark.
Okay.
Or we can get a bit
It was
seasick.
a bit rocky last time. I was like, whoa.
Isn't it? Can get a little bit seasicky. So just think a little bit more like a building sequence with phrasing. So it has inflection, but the whole thing is growing a bit more.
Yeah.
Do you want to try?
Yeah.
Yeah? So just from there.
G flat.
You had a little giggle, but I think that this piano, you could find something even more magical with the colour.
Yeah.
You know, something really pale and kind of something really special there with the harmony. Now, until we get to the fortissimo, don't be tempted to add too much kind of energy kind of to the mood here. Keep it a bit more tranquil.
Okay.
I think French, kind of charming. Actually, he was Belgian, I think. Was he Belgian? I think he was. He wasn't actually French. Or was he French? Oh, in that direction.
Yeah.
And then just kind of keep a little bit more out of the way here. A bit more under wraps emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah? 37, halfway through the bar. It's the forte G flat. Yeah. Good, but it would have had more power if you didn't slow down.
Okay.
It was beautiful,
Okay.
but it was just a bit predictable because you slowed down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so often the temptation in this piece.
Yeah.
Just keep it flowing,
Yeah.
you know? Same place. Don't take too much time up here. I think be aware of the piano part, because there's only so much you can kind of keep going, you know, a bit more movement. And I think we can think about the vibrato here.
Is it too much?
No, never. No. I think it could be more.
Oh, wow.
And I think we can find different types of vibrato, you know. For this fortissimo, it could be more physical, kind of belly vibrato almost, you know, really sing, cry, whatever, into the flute here. And then we can change. Something more dolce, more kind of quicker within the sound, you know. I think you could find real expressive contrast here.
Yeah.
Give it a go. So here, big belly vibrato, and then with this diminuendo, let's melt into a more violinistic kind of shimmering vibrato
Sure.
of your choice. Yeah? Can we go from the fortissimo? Nice. The fortissimo, the fortissimo was fantastic. It really shone. I thought it was brilliant.
Okay.
You were less convinced by the piano.
It's still too slow as well, isn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. You're hanging around on the A for a bit too long.
Okay. Yeah.
A bit more in tempo. You still want to phrase to the E.
Yep.
Yeah?
Okay.
And then when we get to the piano, you know, we need more energy in the airstream in piano playing than forte playing, you know? So I think you can think a little bit more direct with the air up there especially, a bit more kind of bullet flow when you get there, yeah?
Yeah.
And really spin the vibrato into the sound.
Okay.
Mix the palette of colour here, think maybe slightly more ooh kind of colour up there.
For the quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Same?
Yeah, have another go. Let's phrase to the E. Fantastic, that was brilliant. But keep the tempo.
Yeah.
Again, piano doesn't mean slow down. Yeah? So gorgeous. And then just make sure that we
So
use
do
an
the
E flat,
yeah.
not an E.
Didn't like that one too much.
One more time, it was fabulous. But just keep the piano spinning, yeah?
Okay.
Good. That was beautiful. Well done.
Thank you.
Really nice. Now, this little twiddle,
Yeah, I don't know why it suddenly vanished.
don't use that. Finger it out. Yeah, and listen, make it vocal.
Okay.
Or it doesn't want to sound too kind of like a jig, you know. It wants to sound more really romantic and singing. Not like how I just sang it. How would you sing it in your head? You don't have to sing it.
Yeah.
Try.
Okay.
Yeah, but do it with the real fingering.
Sure.
Piano, bar 58. Good. Fantastic. Yeah, we'll go on to that. Now, something like this, you know, I think just the twiddle, maybe just you need to organize it rhythmically.
I'll practice.
But you know, it would help to organize it rhythmically, I think. And sometimes with something like this, you could even write it out. Yeah. So I would imagine this, dee-dum, da-dee-da-da-da-dee-dum,
Okay.
dum, bum. Because otherwise, if we're just kind of moving the fingers, but without a concept, it's difficult. Whereas if we organize it, dun da ga da da dee dun da dum, that would make it easier to phrase.
Yeah.
You know, because what's happening at the moment is that you're not phrasing it.
I'll fix that bit.
Good.
Yeah.
There's some advice to help you fix it. Now,
Have you got any more fingers I could add to my apron?
are you putting these down? Well, you know,
Pull out a bit, maybe.
no, but you know, I think that the thing is with this kind of trick fingering malarkey is that it can work, but sometimes it's best to just use the real fingering and adjust the colour or the pitch, the airstream, focus on that more than just putting down fingers, you know?
Even if it doesn't work.
And of course, an A flat, it is a sharp note. But it is possible to play in tune without doing this if you kind of, we need to put the pitch down further in our bodies around this area, you know, really kind of have that connection with the ground. Don't allow the jaw to be too tense. And maybe just sit back on the sound a little bit.
Yeah.
It's difficult here because there's this big crescendo and we're like, ugh, but anything you can to just think a bit lower. Just try that note.
Do you want me to try the normal, just the original? Or the...
Try both. Now, do you think your jaw could be a bit more relaxed?
Maybe.
Better, yeah. I think the temptation is, you know, we go higher on the flute, so we think often higher with the airstream. And actually, sometimes it's best to think lower as we go higher. In your scales, you could imagine sometimes, rather than kind of reaching up for the high notes, better to be kind of expanding your way up and creating a wider space, generally in the body. You know, here, in the jaw, the chest, all, you know, everywhere, the mouth, throat, getting even more room for the top register because it needs a bit more space.
Yeah.
The moment we start to compress it too much, especially with forte stuff, we're in trouble. So I think how you could practice this, you know, take some intervals, take some octaves, take some fourths, take some fifths, and practice really focusing on keeping everything open over the interval. So your kind of pivot note could be the first A flat. And gradually allowing the intervals to get bigger, but keeping this super open and this very flexible and not over-exerting the jaw. Okay. Have a go. Just hang around on an A flat and then try some intervals. Thank you. Yawn over the intervals. Keep the airspeed low. Good, and you know, harmonics also fantastic for this kind of thing. So you could practice. And, you know, with harmonics, we really want to think about there being no obstacle in the torso between the kind of lower abdominal muscles and the room, you know? So this is just a vessel, and the articulation is really coming from this kind of direct ha, you know? So really thinking as you're doing your harmonics, as you're going higher and higher, to think this motion and to remember this. And use your kind of, you know, imagine you had to push the Steinway piano now. How would you do that? Don't actually push it, just pretend you're going to push it. What would you do? What are you doing to your legs?
Like
Yes,
putting the weight in.
exactly. And you know, for flute playing, this is super important.
Yeah.
For when we want to play with real support, to remember the kind of broken down car muscles or pushing the Steinway, and really feeling that connection to the ground and having that support there. And then this just really relaxed and open, not adding too much pressure, and that will also help for these notes as well. Good. I want to end, but I want to end with hearing you play, because it sounds beautiful. Why don't we just quickly, for a minute, carry on, play the vivo, and this time at the tempo 1, try something different. You know, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
It's coming. We know how it sounds, so surprise us, you know. Do something different. Maybe it could be a bit more mysterious. Maybe it could be a bit more sure of itself this time. I don't know.
Okay.
But do something that really draws us in.